So today, we're going to tackle a really fundamental question. What does it truly mean to feel secure? And we're going to use a classic psychological lens to really get to the bottom of it.
I mean, it's a question we all think about, right? What is it? Is it money in the bank? A steady job? A safe place to live? The truth is, it's all of that. And it's also deeply, deeply personal.
So where do you even start with a question that big? Well, as it turns out, psychology actually gives us a fantastic blueprint for understanding this core human need. And that blueprint? It's something you've probably heard of, Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. Basically, our needs are stacked, kind of like a pyramid. You can't really be worried about, your creative potential if you're seriously worried about where your next meal is coming from. First things first, right?
All right, so let's actually build this pyramid together, piece by piece, starting from the very bottom. And this foundation is the absolute non-negotiable part. Everything else rests on this.
And right there at the very base level, we've got our physiological needs. And look, this isn't about wants or desires. This is the raw, non-negotiable stuff of pure survival.
Yeah, we're talking about the absolute rock-bottom basics. Food, water, shelter, sleep. I mean, without these, literally nothing else matters. Your entire biological system is basically just screaming to get these needs met. Okay, so once that survival level is covered, once we're not in immediate danger of starving or freezing, then we can move up a level. Let's add the next block, our safety needs. And this is where that feeling of security we've been talking about really starts to take shape.
So what does that mean? Well, this level's all about creating a sense of stability and, predictability. It's that need to feel safe from physical harm, to be healthy, to have some financial security, to know you have a job. It's basically about pushing back against the chaos of the world and creating a space where you feel like you know what's coming next.
All right, so now we've got a solid foundation, right? Survival is handled, safety is in place. Now we can finally start to look up. Now we can start the climb to the top of the pyramid. And this part of the journey is all about our social and psychological growth.
And boom, here it is, the whole shebang. So above safety, you get love and belonging. That's our need for connection. Then you've got esteem, feeling accomplished and respected. And finally, right at the very peak, there's self-actualization. That's the big one, becoming the best version of yourself you can possibly be.
So the key takeaway here is that in a typical, healthy life, our focus naturally moves up the pyramid. We go from just surviving to actually thriving. We start looking for connection, for meaning, for growth. But, and this is a huge but, what happens if that natural climb gets violently interrupted?
And that brings us to a really critical part of this whole discussion. We've just spent all this time talking about building this pyramid up. But what happens when its very foundation cracks?
I mean, just think about it for a second. What happens when something so overwhelming occurs that it just shatters our sense of safety? When our brain gets the message loud and clear that the world is not a safe place. This quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. Trauma isn't just a bad memory you can file away. No way. It's an experience that fundamentally rips apart our sense of security, and it forces our attention, our focus, all the way back down to the very bottom of that pyramid. And this is the crucial shift to understand. So, where one person might be looking up, thinking about their career goals or creative projects, someone who's been through trauma, their brain is often subconsciously forced to look down. They're stuck constantly scanning for threats, always checking and rechecking if those bottom two layers, survival and safety, are actually secure. And please, let's be super clear here. This isn't a conscious choice. It's a survival instinct that's been kicked into overdrive. Their entire system is stuck on high alert, just perpetually asking, am I safe? Is everything stable? Can you imagine how exhausting that is? It's just this relentless, all-consuming state of being. So what's the big deal? Why does this Maslow framework matter so much in this context? Well, because it gives us a completely new and, honestly, a deeply compassionate way to look at insecurity in human behavior. When you look at it through this lens, you start to see that insecurity isn't some kind of character flaw. Not at all. It's often a totally logical response to a foundation that's been shaken. It helps us really grasp the long-term deep impact of trauma. And maybe most important of all, it helps us develop real empathy, both for other people and for ourselves. And this, for me, is the most powerful idea in this entire explainer. It completely shifts the question. We stop asking what's wrong with you, and we start asking what happened to you. And that is a monumental shift. It's moving from a place of judgment to a place of pure compassion.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Knowing all this, knowing that someone's struggle might just be rooted in a deep, unmet need for basic safety, how does that change the way you support the people in your life, your friends, your family, maybe even yourself? It really is something worth thinking about.